Inatake ng isang galit na elepante ang isang German tourist sa India. Kamustahin natin kung nakaligtas ba ang turista sa elephant attack. Mga detalye ng mga balitang yan ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi, ako si Nina Richie Alagaw Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Biyernes. Chinese warships namataan sa joint military drills ng Pilipinas, Estados Unidos, Japan at Australia. Ating alamin ang naging pahayag ni Vice President Sara Duterte hinggil sa kinakaharap nitong impeachment complaint. Israel umalis na rin bilang miyembro ng United Nations Human Rights Council. 350 katao inilikas mula sa nagliyab na train sa Pennsylvania. At ayon sa Bloomberg Report, malapit nang ilabas ng Apple ang bagong iPhone SE. Kinumpirma ng US Indo-Pacific Command na kinontrata ng US Department of Defense ang bumagsak na aircraft sa Ampatuan, Maguindanao del Sur noong February 16 o 6. 4 na individual ang namatay mula sa pagbagsak ng private plane na may body number na N349CA sa isang sakahan sa barangay Amalatimon. Kasama sa mga namatay ang isang US military service member at 3 defense contractors. Ayon sa US military, nagsasagawa ng intelligence, surveillance at reconnaissance support ang aircraft bilang bahagi ng security cooperation sa pagitan ng Estados Unidos at ng Pilipinas. Wala namang ibang sibilyan na nasaktan sa plane crash at patuloy pa rin ang investigasyon ng otoridad sa sanhi ng pagbagsak ng US aircraft. Ayon sa Armed Forces of the Philippines o AFP, namataan nila ang presensya ng mga Chinese warships habang isinasagawa ang joint military drills ng Pilipinas, US, Japan at Australia sa West Philippine Sea o WPS. Sinabi ni AFP Public Affairs Office Chief Colonel Cercis Trinidad, matagumpay na natapos ang multilateral maritime cooperative activity noong Miyerkules, kahit na may presensya ng People's Liberation Army Navy vessels sa WPS. Nanatilian niya ang mga barko ng China sa malayong distansya at hindi nakialam sa maritime drills. Nagsagawa ng communication check exercises, maritime domain awareness and contact reporting at iba pang drills ang mga tauhan ng BRP Jose Rizal ng Pilipinas, HMAS Hubbard ng Australia, JS Azikuzuki ng Japan at US Benfold ng Estados Unidos. Dagdag ni AFP Chief General Romeo Bronner Jr., layo ng aktibidad na ito na gawing matibay ang kooperasyon sa pagitan ng 4 na bansa para mapanatili ang kaligtasan sa paglalayag sa Indo-Pacific region alinsunod na rin sa international laws. Binasag na ni Vice Presidente Sara Duterte ang kanyang katahimikan at sinagot ang mga tanong ukol sa reklamang impeachment laban sa kanya. Sa pagharap ni VP Sara sa media, kaninang hapon ay nanindigan ito na hindi siya magbibitiw sa pwesto bilang bise at sinabi niyang handa siyang harapin ang impeachment complaint. Muling inulit ng bise ang kanyang pahayag na hindi niya pinagbantaan ang buhay ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos gaya ng akusasyon sa kanya sa Articles of Impeachment.
Wala pa tayo doon, ma'am, na masyado pang malayo yung mga ganyan na mga bagay. I did not make an assassination threat to the president. Sila lang nagsasabi niyan. Sila lang nagsasabi may assassination. Sila nagsasabi may assassin, may gunman.
Next po, GDB.
Not say that. Sa panahon ngayon, ma'am, na sobrang...
Magbigay pa ng komento ni VP Sara sa issue kung nakaramdam ba siya ng pagtataksil sa mga dating malalapit na kongresista sa kanya na pumirma sa impeachment complaint. Ipinunto niya na wala siyang barkadang politiko. Tumanggi ring magbigay ng reaksyon ng bise tungkol sa pagiging una sa listahan ng pumirma sa impeachment complaint si Presidential Son at Ilocos Norte Congressman Sandro Marcos. Nagbiro rin si VP Sara na mas masakit pa ang maiwanan ng karelasyon kaysa ma-impeach sa House of Representatives.
Actually, ma'am, wala akong feelings. Wala akong feelings about it. Kasi, kung napapansin nyo, wala naman kasi talaga akong barkada na politiko. I don't join their circles. But we are friends, yes. But kung ninong at ninang lang ng mga anak, walang ninong at ninang na politiko ang mga anak ko. Maliban kay Stonefish, dahil nandoon si former President Erap Estrada. So, I don't move in the circle of politicians. Kaibigan, yes. But to say that meron akong close relationship, personal relationship with them, wala naman. Kaya siguro, ganyan din siguro kadali sa kanila ang magdesisyon about the impeachment.
Samantala, hindi nagbigay ng detalye ang vice-presidente kung sino-sino ang magiging abogado niya para sa impeachment trial sa Senado. Pero sinabi niyang handa na ang kanyang legal team na idepensa siya. Binanggit niya na welcome ang kanyang ama na si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte na maging bahagi ng kanyang legal team. Inamin niya na hindi pa sila nakakausap ulit na mag-ama simula nang siya ay ma-impeach o i-impeach ng Kamara. Pero nagpadala siya ng mensahe sa dating Pangulo.
Everything will be all right. Yun ata ang sinabi ko. His reply was a song, MacArthur's Park. So, nagpadala siya ng video na kumakanta siya.
Nagpasalamat din si VP Sara sa Iglesia ni Cristo sa isinagawa nitong National Rally for Peace at sa kanyang binasang mensahe para sa sambayan ng Pilipino ay nagpasalamat siya sa mga sumuporta at nagmahal sa kanya.
Nagpapasalamat po ako sa INC at sa buong sambayanan sa kanilang pananawagan ng kapayapaan. Ang tanging masasabi ko na lamang sa puntong ito ay God save the Philippines. Manalig kayo dahil sa taong bayan ang tagumpay. Sa panahon ngayon, ma'am, na sobrang mahal ng presyo ng mga bilihin, lalong-lalo na ng pagkain, sasabihin ko sa mga supporters sa taong bayan na unahin muna nila ang trabaho and negosyo nila kesa sa mag-rally sila sa mga daan. Dahil marami o lahat tayo breadwinners. So merong mga bata or merong mga kapamilya na nagdidepende sa atin.
Sinabi ni Senate President Francis Cheese Escudero na tatawid sa susunod na Kongreso o sa 20th Congress ang impeachment trial laban kay Vice President Sara Duterte. Ipaniliwanag ng senador na marami pang prosesong pagdadaanan ng reklamong impeachment bago ganap na masimulan ang pagdinig rito. Kung masimulan niya ang pagproseso sa June 2 ng impeachment ay hanggang June 30 na lamang ang termino ng mga senador ng 19th Congress at hindi sapat ang panahong ito. Nilinaw rin ni Escudero na hindi rin naman agad masisimulan ang paglilitis sa June 2 dahil may mga kailangan pang gawin, kagaya na lamang ng pag-update ng impeachment rules. Matapos nito ay bibigyan pa ng panahon ng kampo ni VP Sara upang sagutin ang mga paratang at sasagot pang muli ang prosecution team mula sa Kamara. Hindi rin anya masisisi ang Senado sa anumang pagkaantala sa impeachment trial dahil natanggap lamang nito ang articles of impeachment mula sa Kamara noong huling araw ng sesyon nito. Aarangkada na sa susunod na buwan ang pamamahagi ng fuel subsidy ng Department of Transportation sa mga public utility vehicle drivers. Ayon kay Transport Undersecretary Jesus Ferdinand Ortega, makatutulong ito upang mabawasan ang mabigat na pasanin ng mga pumapasadang driver dahil nananatiling mataas ang halaga ng krudo. Anya, itong magiging tulong ng pamahalaan sa mga tsuper at operators kada taon sa harap ng fuel price increase. Pangungunahan naman ng iba't ibang ahensya ang subsidy payout kasama ang Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board para sa jeepney drivers at ang Department of the Interior and Local Government naman para sa mga tricycle drivers. Samantala, asahan ang katiting na tapyas presyo sa produktong petrolyo sa susunod na linggo. Ayon sa Department of Energy Oil Industry Management Bureau, batay sa 4 na araw na kalakalan, maaaring hindi gumalaw ang presyo ng gasolina at kung may tapyas man ito ay maaaring 30 sentimos lamang kada litro, habang maaaring mabawasan ng 20 hanggang 50 sentimos ang presyo sa kada litro ng diesel at kerosene. Ayon sa ahensya, pinaniniwala ang dahilan ng paggalaw sa presyo ng oil products ay dahil sa pagbaba ng oil production mula sa Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries o OPEC noong January. Susunod, United Nations na babahala sa krisis sa Congo. Plano ni Trump para sa Gaza, kinundena ng UN Rapporteur. At Israel kumalas na rin bilang miyembro ng UN Human Rights Council. Iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik pa rin ng Mata ng Agila International.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka nang mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Ang SBP ay binuo upang
United Nations na magkaroon ng isang mediation upang masolusyonan ang Eastern Congo crisis. Sa mga nakalipas na linggo ay lumalakas ang opensiba ng M23 rebels na pinaniniwala ang suportado ng Rwanda. Si Myla Simbulan para sa report.
Umapila si United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres sa member states na kailangan ng mamagitan sa krisis na nagaganap ngayon sa Eastern Congo.
It's time for mediation. It's time to end this crisis. It's time to peace. The stakes are too high. And we need the active and constructive role of all players, namely neighboring countries, sub-regional organizations, the African Union, and the United Nations. Let us all act together for peace. Thank you.
Ayon kay Guterres, kailangang respetuhin ang soberenya ng Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Silence the guns. Stop the escalation. Respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Uphold international human rights law and international humanitarian law. There is no military solution. It's time for all the signatories of the Peace, Security and Cooperation Framework for the DRC and the region to honor their commitments.
Dinitalya ng hepe ng UN ang sitwasyon ngayon sa DRC at kung paanong nagdurusa ang mga mamamayan doon, lalong-lalo na ang mga kababaihan at kabataan.
Thousands of people have been killed, including women and children, and hundreds of thousands have been forced from their homes in the eastern DRC. We also see the continuous threats by other armed groups, either Congolese or foreign. All of this is having an enormous human toll. We have countless reports of human rights abuses, including sexual and gender-based violence, forced recruitment, and the disruption of life-saving aid. The humanitarian situation in and around Goma is perilous. Hundreds of thousands of people are on the move, with many of the previous sites hosting displaced people north of the city now looted, destroyed, or abandoned.
Noong Enero, tumindi ang labanan ng M23 at ng Congolese government sa rehiyong mayaman sa mineral. Ayon sa UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, sa pinakahuling estima, nasa 2,800 tao na ang namatay dahil sa labanang naganap kamakailan sa bayan ng Goma. Myla Simbulan para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Tinuligsa ng United Nations Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese ang pahayag ni US President Donald Trump ukol sa Palestinians sa Gaza. Ani Albanese, tila pinipilit ni Trump ang sapilitang pagpapalikas o forced displacement doon. Si Cherry Recolizado para sa mga detalye.
Noong Martes, 4 ng Pebrero, sinabi ni US President Donald Trump na kokontrolin nito ang Gaza Strip at mananagot sa paglakas ng mga bomba at sandata sa lugar. Ani Trump, palilipatin nito ang Palestinians sa ibang lugar at pauunlarin niya ng US ang teritoryo. Ito ay isang galaw na sisira sa tuntunin ng US ukol sa kaguluhan sa pagitan ng Israel at Palestinians. Bilang tugon, sinabi ni UN Special Rapporteur on the Occupied Palestinian Territories, Francesca Albanese, na ang planong ito ni Trump ay walang saysay at hindi makatarungan.
Utter nonsense is nonsense, and it's unlawful. What he proposes, people talk of ethnic cleansing. No, it's worse. It's worse. It's forced displacement. He's inciting to commit forced displacement, which is an international crime. Forced displacement and further dispossession. And in the context of a genocide, it will strengthen the complicity in the crimes that Israel has been committing over the past 15 months and before. It's unlawful, immoral, and irresponsible. It's completely irresponsible because it will make the regional crisis even worse. And I truly hope that people will stay calm, will not panic, and will remember that the international community is made of 193 states. And this is the time to give the US what it has been looking for, isolation.
Sinabi ni Trump na gugustuhin ng Palestinian residents ang lumisan dahil sa panganib. Subalit wala namang indikasyon na nais iwanan ng 2.3 milyon na mga residente ang Gaza. Ani Albanese, nais niyang mahimasmasan ang mga taga-Amerika at tutulan ang ganitong sistema.
I want to hope that the American people, first and foremost, come back to senses and oppose this system from within.
Dagdag ni Albanese, hindi dapat pithiin ang pag-unlad ng ekonomiya kung nasasalangsang ang karapatan at kalayaan ng iba.
Of course, economic development must happen. Of course, cooperation is necessary, but not at the expense of fundamental rights and freedoms, which is what Israel, the United States, more openly than ever, and others seems to expect that the Palestinians will accept. Like all indigenous people in the world, the Palestinian will never surrender.
Batay sa ika-4 na Geneva Convention noong 1949, ipinagbabawal ang sapilitang pagpapalipat o deportasyon ng protektadong mga tao sa isang okupadong teritoryo. Cherry Recolisado para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Nagbabala ang hepe ng United Nations kay US President Donald Trump na iwasan ang ethnic cleansing sa Gaza. Ito'y matapos imungkahi ni Trump na ililipat ang tirahan ng mga Palestinians sa ibang lugar at hahayaang okupahin ng Estados Unidos ang nasabing teritoryo. Si Terlyn Cunanan para sa mga detalye.
Hindi man direktang binanggit ni UN Chief Antonio Guterres sa kanyang mensahe si President Donald Trump o ang Gaza proposal nito sa Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People. Sinabi ng kanyang tagapagsalita na si Stephanie Dujarric na ang mensahe ni Guterres ay tugon. Ayon kay Guterres, mahalaga na iwasan ang anumang uri ng ethnic cleansing.
In the search for solutions, we must not make the problem worse. It is vital to stay true to the bedrock of international law. It is essential to avoid any form of ethnic cleansing.
Ani Guterres, kailangan panindigan ang two-state solution upang makamit ang pangmatagalang kapayapaan sa Gaza. Matagal nang ini-endorse ng UN ang dalawang estado sa tabi ng isa't isa na kinikilala ng borders. Nais ng Palestinians na magkaroon ng estado sa West Bank, East Jerusalem at Gaza Strip. Ang lahat ng ito ay territory na inangkin ng Israel sa giyera laban sa kalapit na Arab states noong 1967.
We must reaffirm the two-state solution. Any durable peace will require tangible, irreversible, and permanent progress toward the two-state solution, an end to the occupation, and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state with Gaza as an integral part.
Ayon kay Dujarric, nakipag-usap si Guterres kay King Abdullah ng Jordan ukol sa sitwasyon sa rehiyon. Samantala, sinabi ng Palestinian envoy Riyad Mansour sa committee na magpapadala ng mensahe si Abdullah kay Trump mula sa Arab states sa pagbisita nito sa Washington sa isang linggo.
We have no country except Palestine. Gaza is a precious part of it. We are not going to leave Gaza. There is no power on earth that can remove the Palestinian people from our ancestral homeland, including Gaza. We want to rebuild it. We want to put it back together, and we ask all countries to help us in this endeavor and in this regard. We are not looking for other homelands or other countries.
Terlyn Cunanan para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Kasunod ng Estados Unidos, inanunsyo ng Israel na hindi na sila makikibahagi pa sa United Nations Human Rights Council o UNHRC.
Just an hour ago, I presented to the Human Rights Council, to the President of the Human Rights Council, Ambassador Hugh Glauber, a letter from the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Israel, His Excellency Gideon Saar, a letter informing the President of the Human Rights Council that Israel is withdrawing from the Human Rights Council. The Human Rights Council has been a biased body since its beginning, with dictatorships lecturing democracies on human rights.
Una nang inihayag ni UNHRC spokesperson Pascal Sim na ang Israel ay nasa isang observer state status na sakop nila kaya hindi sila pwedeng umalis. Ang UNHRC ay isang Geneva-based council na binubuo ng 47 UN member states. Ang mga nangunguna rito ay nagsisilbi ng 4 na taon at ang kanilang termino ay rotation basis kung saan ang US ay hindi na elected member ng konseho. Samantala, inakusahan ni Ambassador of Israel to the UN, Daniel Meron, ang UNHRC ng anti-Semitism, kaya ito raw ang dahilan kung kaya't nagpasya silang gayahin ng US at umalis na sa konseho. Sinabi rin ng Israeli Ambassador na biased daw ang UNHRC sa Israel.
Today, in the face of this blatant anti-Semitism perpetrated by mandate holders, the Human Rights Council is silent. The Council, as well as the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, systematically favors one party to the conflict and advance a narrative under which Palestinians and their institutions have no obligations and duties under international law. We hope that the UN system will be able to undergo deep structural reforms that would end the politicization of human rights. Until then, Israel feels compelled to not engage with the Human Rights Council.
Noong Huwebes, inakusahan ng isang federal judge si US President Donald Trump ng pagwawalang bahala sa batas nang ideklara nito ang pagkitil sa birthright citizenship. Matapos lagyan ng judge ng ekstensyon ang pagharang niya sa utos ni Trump, idineklara nitong hindi makakonstitusyon ang aksyon ng Pangulo. Si Rosel Feria para sa balita.
Nagpalakpakan ang nasa loob ng korte nang inextend ni US District Judge John Kavanaugh ang kanyang utos na harangan ang executive order ni Pangulong Donald Trump ukol sa pagbawi ng birthright citizenship. Inaasahang aapila ang administrasyon ni Trump laban sa desisyon ng judge. Ang pag-uutos ng judge ay sa isang kaso na isinampa ng mga demokratikong estado ng Washington, Arizona, Illinois at Oregon at ng ilang nagdadalang tao. Ayon sa mga ito, ang executive order ni Trump ay sumasalangsang sa 14th Amendment ng US Constitution na nagsasaad na sino mang ipinanganak sa Estados Unidos ay mamamayan nito. Batay sa utos ni Trump, hindi dapat kilalanin ng mga ahensya ng bansa ang pagkamamamayan ng mga sanggol na ipinanganak sa bansa simula 19 ng Pebrero kung ang magulang nito ay hindi US citizen o lawful permanent resident. Ang pambansang preliminary injunction ni Kavanaugh ay isa sa 2 inisyu ng federal judges na humaharang sa pag-uutos ng Pangulo. Noong 5 ng Pebrero, isang federal judge din sa Maryland ang nag-issue ng kawangis na injunction. Ngayong Biyernes at Lunes, nakaset na rin ang ilang judges sa Boston at New Hampshire na gawin din ito batay sa request ng mga naunang estado at ng immigrant rights advocates. Rosel Feria para sa Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Nagprotesta sa Washington, D.C. ang mga kamag-anak ng Hamas hostages. Kasama ng mga ito ang Israeli community na humihingi ng aksyon sa pamahalaan ng Estados Unidos na muling kausapin ang grupong Hamas at pakawalan na nito ang mga natitira pang hostages. Si MJ de Guzman para sa balita.
Nakikiusap ang mga demonstrador sa Estados Unidos na huwag huminto sa pagtulong at huwag limutin ang natitira pang mga bihag ng Hamas.
Please don't stop now. If this deal fall apart, the hostage will die. It is not metaphor. It is true. You know it. I know it. And you are the only one who can stop it from happening. Please, President Trump, don't let them be forgotten.
Ayon sa isang ina na may anak na bihag ng Hamas, ang nais lamang niya ay mayakap muli ang kanyang anak.
I have not come here as a politician or as an activist. I am an Israeli patriot, and I am simply here as a deeply concerned mother who wants to hold her son again. A mother who expects her country to stand up for her. A mother who expects her prime minister to do everything he can to free Israeli hostages. But instead, he made excuses and favored political consideration opposing the deal.
Isinalaysay ng isang dating bihag ang kanyang pinagdaanan. Anya, para sa mga hindi pa pinakakawalan, bawat sandaling bihag ang mga ito ay pagnanakaw ng bahagi ng kanilang mga buhay.
My name is Ilana Gritsewski. On October 7, I was kidnapped from my home in Kibbutz Nir Oz, held in captivity for 55 days by Hamas, living through fear, hunger, and torment. But I was one of the lucky ones. I made it out on the first deal. My partner Matan did not. Matan is still there. 79 hostages are still there. Every second that passes, every moment is another pieces of their life stole away.
Noong isang buwan, nagkasundo sa isang masalimuot na three-phase deal ang Israel at Hamas. Dahil dito natigil ang labanan sa Gaza. Nagpakawala ng 18 mga bihag ang Hamas, kapalit ng pagpapalaya naman ng Israel sa daan-daang Palestinian prisoners of war. Batay sa ceasefire agreement, sisimulan ng pag-uusap ukol sa ikalawang yugto ng kasunduan sa ika-16 na araw ng unang yugto. Kasama sa ikalawang yugto, ang pagpapalaya ng Hamas sa natitira pang mga bihag nito na sinasabing tuluyang magtatapos ng labanan at kukumpleto ng pag-alis ng puwersa ng Israel sa Gaza. NJ de Guzman para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected.
Patuloy ang protesta ng daan-daang tao, kabilang ang mga senador at kinatawan laban sa mga aksyon ni Pangulong Donald Trump at hanghepe ng bagong tatag na Department of Government Efficiency na si Elon Musk. Ang protesta ay may kaugnayan sa plano ni Trump at Musk na ipasara ang United States Agency for International Development o USAID. Si Chantal Santos para sa report.
Nakapokus ang protesta sa desisyon ng Trump administration na paglibanin ang mga direktang empleyado ng USAID sa buong mundo at i-recall ang libo-libong personel nito na nagtatrabaho sa ibang bansa. Sigaw ng mga demonstrador na iwanan ni Musk ang administrasyon. Kasama nila ang mga senador tulad ni Chris Van Hollen ng Maryland at Cory Booker ng New Jersey. Ayon kay Van Hollen, binabawi na ngayon ni Musk ang pondo niya sa kampanya ni Trump.
We are witnessing in real time the most corrupt bargain in American history. Elon Musk paid over $250 million to help elect Donald Trump, and now Donald Trump is turning over the keys to the Treasury and the rest of the federal government to Elon Musk. We need to end this illegal power grab, and we are going to do it now. We are not going back.
Samantala, ipinahayag ni Booker na dadaanin nila ang paglaban sa legal na paraan.
The second thing we are going to do is we are going to fight this legally in every way we can. We will fight their violation of civil service laws. We will fight their violation of civil rights laws. We will fight their violations of separation of powers. We will fight their violations of our Constitution of the United States of America. We will not shut up. We will stand up. We will speak up. We will rise up. It is time, as the African spiritual says, for us to lift every voice in condemnation of what's going on.
Dagdag ni Booker, ang protesta ay hindi pamumulitika. Ito anya ay paghahayag ng totoo.
This is not about left or right, it's about right and wrong. This is not about demonizing a political party, it is about telling the truth about Donald Trump's actions and Elon Musk's actions. We must We must, as a people, appeal to the consciousness of those moderate Republicans that we can get to stand with us on legislation to save USAID.
Ipanaliwanag ng isang dating USAID contractor kung bakit mahalagang pondohan ang mga programang sinusuportahan ng ahensya. Anya, ito ay paraan upang isalba rin ang US bago padapuan ng kung ano-anong problema.
You know, the United States gives a lot of money to improve the capacity of different governments around the world so that they can manage problems that eventually reach the United States. So that includes diseases like Ebola. It also includes security, trafficking, piracy. That if they get stopped in West Africa, they never come here. But if we wait, then the problems just get bigger.
Nanawagan naman ang dating opisyal ng USAID na hayaang magtrabaho ang mga empleyado ng ahensya dahil sa kahalagahan ng mga ginagawa ng mga ito.
I am a surgeon. I am Atul Gawande, who has led global health at USAID for the last 3 years until 2 weeks ago. Until 2 weeks ago, there was a malaria team with world experts, and they are gone. Until 2 weeks ago, there was a TB team, and they are gone. Until 2 weeks ago, there were disease fighters, and they are gone. But they have not gone away. So we need you to demand that we let them work. 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 Let them work.
Ayon sa Congressional Research Service, nasa 10,000 ang mga empleyado ng USAID. 2/3 ng staff nito ay nagtatrabaho sa ibang bansa. Ang ahensya ay may higit 60 misyon sa mga bansa at rehiyon. Ayon sa presidente ng Refugees International at dating opisyal ng USAID, hindi radikal ang mga empleyado ng ahensya. Ang atakihin ng mga ito at ang ginagawa nila anya ang radikal.
You know, USAID workers are just some of the most low-key folks that, the low-key but low-key brave, low-key courageous, low-key patriotic folks you will ever meet. They're not radicals. Most of them, in normal times, would go through their entire careers without ever making it, without ever being in the news, without ever, being in the public eye in any way. And what is radical is to talk about patriotic Americans who have served their countries, patriotic Americans who have served their country in war zones, in epidemic hot zones, as if they are criminals, as if they and their service are somehow harming this country. It is the attacks on patriotic Americans serving their country and working for their government that is the radical act.
Chantel Santos para sa Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Susunod, daan-daang tao inilikas sa Pennsylvania. Paggamit ng DeepSeek AI, pinagbawal na rin sa South Korea. At trailer ng bagong Fantastic Four movie, pinagkaguluhan ng mga fans. Yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
crucial na mailista at ma-identify mo muna yung data. Kasi kung wala yung data, walang ipaprocess yung AI eh.
We tend to use the technology on how to innovate our products according to their needs.
Yung ating mission na magkaroon ng magandang healthcare or insurance coverage ang bawat pamilya.
Another trend we're looking at is the expansion of total video, as we call it. So television is not dying, contrary to a lot of doomsayers, but in fact, it's actually evolving.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Sa NET25.
Tinamaan ng malakas na cold wave ang hilagang bahagi ng China kung saan nasa freezing temperatures na ang klima sa lugar habang nagyeyelo na ang mga ilog sa ibang rehiyon doon. Ayon sa Beijing Meteorological Service, nakapagtala ng above level 8 na malakas na hangin ang tumatama sa 25 mga lugar sa bansa kung saan pumapalo sa higit 30 kilometers per hour ang bilis ng hangin. Nagdeklara na rin ang blue warning ang Weather Bureau ng China dahil sa tuloy-tuloy na freezing temperatures ngayong linggo. Inabisuhan naman ng mga otoridad ang mga residente sa Beijing na iwasan muna ang paglabas sa kanilang mga tahanan dahil sa inaasahang malakas na hangin na babayo sa kanilang lugar. Naalarma ang mga residente ng Greater Buenos Aires, Argentina dahil nagkulay pula ang kanilang ilog. Hinala ng publiko ay may natapang toxic waste sa ilog na pwede nilang ikalason. Galing umano ang toxic spill sa aniline contamination o chemical waste ng isang kalapit na depot. Nangolekta na ang mga otoridad ng water samples sa ilog para alamin kung bakit naging kulay pula ang tubig nito. At ayon sa inisyal na pagsisiyasat ng Buenos Aires Environment Ministry ay hindi nakalalason ang mga natapong sangkap sa ilog. Ngunit hinihintay pa rin ng mga residente roon ang opisyal at kumpletong ulat ng mga otoridad sa mga nakuwang water samples sa ilog. Isang passenger train naman ang nabalot ng apoy sa Pennsylvania kung saan inilikas ang nasa 350 katao. Ayon sa ulat ng local media, isang Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority train ang bigla na lamang nagliab habang nakaparada ito sa isang istasyon ng tren. Mula sa video na nakalap, mapapansin na maraming mga bumbero ang inaapula ang apoy mula sa passenger train. Wala namang naitalang nasaktan mula sa insidente habang inaalam naman ng mga otoridad ang sanhi ng sunog sa tren. Isang 77-year-old German tourist ang namatay sa isang elephant attack sa India. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, kinilala ang biktima bilang si Mikel Yursen. Bago ang trahedya, nagmomotorsiklo si Yursen sa kahabaan ng Polachi-Valparay Road nang binalaan na siya ng ibang motorista na huwag nang tumuloy dahil may nag-aamok na elepante sa daan. Sa kabila ng mga babalay, tumuloy pa rin si Yursen. Mapapansin mula sa video na nang malapit na si Yursen sa hayop ay nanuwag ang elepante at tumilapo ng turista sa gilid ng kalsada. Mula sa impact ng pag-atake ng elepante ay nagtamo ng malalang pinsala sa katawan ng turista. Nadala pa si Yursen sa pagamutan pero dito na siya namatay. Pumanaw na po ang kilalang music executive sa US na si Irv Gotti sa edad na 54. Kinumpirma ito ng kanyang record company na Def Jam, subalit hindi na nagbigay pa ng ilang mga detalye. Si Gotti ay tinaguri ang founder ng hip-hop label na Def Jam at Murder Inc. na nagtaguyod sa mga kilalang rappers gaya ni DMX, Ashanti, Ja Rule at Jay-Z. Naharap din sila sa kaso kasamang kanyang kapatid at business partner noong 2005 kung saan gumagamit sila umano ng drug money para sa pagpapalago ng kanilang negosyo. Itinapo naman ng korte ang kaso laban sa magkapatid kung saan sinabi nilang nakaruta sa racism ang mga aligasyon laban sa kanila. Nagpaabot naman ang iba't ibang rap artists ng pakikiramay katulad ni Kanye West, Fat Joe, Rick Rubin, Ja Rule at iba pa.
Because he's a great engine of chaos.
Inihayag ni South Korean Foreign Ministry spokesman Lee Jae-wong na gumagawa ang kanilang gobyerno ng mga hakbang ukol sa Chinese Artificial Intelligence o AI startup na DeepSeek. May ilang AI experts kasi na nababahala sa paggamit ng DeepSeek ng mga personal na impormasyon ng mga users nito. Pinag-iingat din ni spokesman Lee ang publiko sa paggamit ng Chinese app na ito lalo na at maraming bansa ang nagsasabing may banta ito sa seguridad. Dahil rito wala mo ng access at bawal ding gamitin ng DeepSeek sa mga computer systems ng military agency ng South Korea. Sinabi naman ng state-run na Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power na block muna ang paggamit ng AI services ng DeepSeek sa mga gamit nito. Hindi lamang ang South Korea ang nagpataw ng restriction sa AI app na gawa ng China. Ipinagbawal din ng Australia at ng Taiwan ang DeepSeek sa lahat ng devices ng gobyerno nito dahil nga sa sinasabing security concerns. Ang susunod na iPhones SE sa susunod na linggo ayon sa ulat po yan ng Bloomberg. Ayon kay Majin Abu, isang leaker, posibleng single rear camera ang ilagay sa latest na iPhone SE 4. May pagkakahawig din ito sa itsura ng iPhone 14. Ibig sabihin, meron itong mas malaking screen at A18 chipset. Inaasahan din na gumagamit ang bagong iPhone ng USB Type-C port. Batay naman sa projection ng Bloomberg, posibleng pumalo sa $500 ang presyo ng nasabing iPhone. Sa kabila nito ay may nagsasabi na ilalabas din ng Apple ang tinatawag na iPhone 17 Air sa mga susunod na buwan. Wala namang komento ang Apple hinggil sa mga leaks sa kanilang bagong products. Inanunsyo ni dating tennis world number 1 at 2-time Grand Slam winner Simona Halep ang kanyang pagre-retiro. Isinagawa nito ang anunsyo matapos ang pagkatalo niya sa first round ng Transylvania Open laban kay Lucia Bronzetti ng Italy. Sinabi ng 33-year-old na Romanian tennis star na hindi na nito nakakayana ng injury sa kanyang tuhod at balikat. Magkahalong lungkot at sayang naramdaman dahil sa kahit na gusto pa niyang maglaro ay bumibigay na ang kanyang katawan dahil sa mga injuries. Nagpasalamat na lamang ito dahil sa naging world number 1 na siya at nakakuha pa ng Grand Slam. Nabigo ng 3 Grand Slam final si Halep hanggang makamit ang unang major sa French Open noong 2018 at nagwagi ng Wimbledon sa susunod na taon. Walong araw na lamang ang hinihintay ng Blooms at mapapanood ng P-pop girl group na BINI sa Philippine Arena. Dahil sa February 15 alas 5 ng hapon ay matutunghayan na ang opening ng BINIverse World Tour kung saan kakantahin ng nation's girl group ang kanilang latest single na Blink Twice. Sa isang contract signing ay mangiyak-ngiyak na inalala ni BINI Stacy ang hirap na pinagdaanan ng kanilang grupo bago makapasok sa industriya ng entertainment.
Pinaghirapan namin talaga kung nasan kami ngayon. Nag-audition talaga kami, talaga pinilahan namin kung nasan kami ngayon. Super thank you sa mga nagtiwala sa amin.
Samantala, inilabas na ng Marvel ang unang trailer ng pelikulang Fantastic Four. Tampok sa trailer MCU First Family na binubuo ni na Pedro Pascal bilang si Reed Richards, Ibon Moss Backrack bilang si Ben Grimm, Joseph Quinn bilang si Johnny Storm at si Vanessa Kirby bilang si Sue Storm na kayang maging invisible. Ang mga miyembro ng Fantastic Four ay mga astronauts na ayon sa comics ay nagkaroon ng superpowers dahil na-expose sila sa isang aksidente sa space. Ipalalabas ito sa July 25, 2025. New Jeans or rather NJZ is back and bolder than ever. Ito ang pinagkakaguluhan ng Bunnies matapos i-anunsyo ng Complex ang pangalawang debut ng sikat na Korean girl group. Ilang buwan matapos ang kanilang drama kasama ang Hype record label ay inanunsyo ng sikat na media company ang NJZ bilang headliner ng kanilang ComplexCon event sa Hong Kong. Dagdag pa rito ay sinabi nilang maglalabas ng bagong musika ang grupo sa naturang event. Sa ngayon ay hindi na makapag-antay ang fans na makakasama o makasama si Minji, Hani, Daniel, Herin, and Hain sa ilalim ng NJZ. Noong nakaraang taon ay formal lang tinapos ng New Jeans ang kanilang kontrata sa Hybe at Adore matapos mabigo ang Hybe dahil sa breach of contract. Susunod, Gaudi Building sa Argentina binuhay gamit ang digital mapping artwork. Exhibit sa Mexico ipinamalas ang ganda ng Amazon Rainforest. At abangan ang iba pang mga storya pagdating ni Alma Angeles at ng Mata ng Agila World News. Abangan, magbabalik pa rin po ang Mata ng Agila International.
Crucial na mailista at ma-identify mo muna yung data. Kasi kung wala yung data, walang ipaprocess yung AI eh.
We tend to use the technology on how to innovate our products according to their needs.
Yung ating mission na magkaroon ng magandang healthcare or insurance coverage ang bawat pamilya.
Another trend we're looking at is the expansion of total video, as we call it. So television is not dying, contrary to a lot of doomsayers, but in fact, it's actually evolving.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Sa NET25.
Nagmistulang digital forest ng Gaudi Building sa Barcelona sa tulong ng video mapping artwork na inilagay sa fasad ng gusali. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, ang video mapping artwork na ito ay gawa ng Italian artist Quayola. Kilala sa tawag na arborescent ang artwork, isang digital tribute para sa nature's growth. Gamit ang blending technology, naging immersive ang karanasan ng mga dumaraan sa lugar dahil naging canvas ang gusali ng magagandang artworks. Ayon kay Quayola, ginamit ang algorithm-driven lights para makalikha ng digital forest. Bahagi yung video projection ng mga Heritage of Tomorrow program, isang inisyatibo para imbitahan ang mga interdisciplinary artists para muling buhayin ang legacy ni Gaudi simula taong 2021. Samantala, binuksan naman ang exhibit ni Brazilian photographer Sebastian Salgado sa National Museum of Anthropology sa Mexico para itampok ang higit sa 200 litrato ng Amazon forest. Ayon kay local curator Agila Salgado, layo ng exhibit na ito na ipaalam sa publiko na kailangan protektahan ang Amazon forest, isang mahalagang ecosystem sa mundo. Bukas ang exhibit mula January 17 hanggang April 30, 2025. Batay sa Zurich Insurance Group, binibigyan diin sa exhibit ang kagandahan ng Amazon mula sa kultura at sa malalawak na rainforests nito.
Hoy, com este cambio climático, con la destrucción permanente del planeta, que nosotros, con nuestra sociedad de consumo, estamos haciendo, estamos destruyendo el planeta. Y tenemos la obligación de mantener algunos de esos grandes santuarios, que Amazônia es uno de ellos, para garantizar de una cierta forma la sobrevivencia de nuestra especie.
Samantala, laging narito po kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Ako si Nina Richie Alago Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Ako'y bumabati po sa inyong lahat ng happy weekend. Para naman po sa mga balitang nangyari sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa mata ng Agila World News.
Thank you, Nina. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News on tonight's headlines. The federal government is shrinking under President Trump. President Trump has launched an ambitious plan to downsize government, drawing fierce opposition from labor unions and the courts. The former Apprentice host, famous for his catchphrase, "You're fired," is now targeting federal positions through widespread job cuts and voluntary buyout programs. While the White House reports thousands of employees have accepted these offers, federal unions are mounting a legal challenge. Their efforts gained traction today when a federal judge issued a temporary restraining order, bringing the controversial buyout program to an immediate halt.
We don't think it's on any kind of sound legal footing. They do not seem to care about the millions of Americans who depend on the services that federal employees provide.
And the news starts now. A federal judge has hit the pause button on President Trump's buyout plan for federal workers, just as protests and legal challenges from unions heat up. And this move puts the administration's push to shrink the government on hold, leaving thousands of employees in uncertainty as the legal fight plays out.
As demonstrations against President Donald Trump and his special government employee Elon Musk sweep the country, a judge on Thursday temporarily blocked the administration's proposed buyout for federal workers until at least Monday. That's after labor unions sued to stop it. Now there's a Monday hearing on the issue. Federal workers are under pressure from the Trump administration to leave their jobs in an unprecedented drive to overhaul the government.
Everybody's replaceable.
Workers had faced a midnight deadline to make their decision. The offer promises to pay employees salaries until October, but that may not be ironclad. Current spending laws expire on March 14th, and there is no guarantee that salaries will be funded beyond that point. Many Democrats and labor unions said the offer is not trustworthy. Here's Jacqueline Simon from the American Federation of Government Employees.
We don't think it's on any kind of sound legal footing. They do not seem to care about the millions of Americans who depend on the services that federal employees provide.
And the backlash to Trump's government overhaul is growing.
The movement is growing. I mean, we've only had to deal with him for the last 16 days. So I think people are waking up to what we're faced with and are going to be coming into the streets.
The buyout is on the table for not only employees at domestic agencies like the Environmental Protection Agency, but intelligence agencies like the CIA as well. The White House has said more than 40,000 people had accepted the buyout offer so far. That's roughly 2% of the federal government's 2.3 million civilian workforce.
The Trump administration's effort to slash and reshape American foreign aid is crippling the intricate global system that aims to prevent and respond to famine. Now, even before U.S. President Donald Trump returned to the White House, the International Famine Monitoring and Relief System has struggled to manage hunger crisis sweeping the developing world. Now, the move this week to shutter the U.S. Agency for International Development just makes the problem worse. Thomas I. Likeness for more.
What you see here, children with empty pots lining up for food, is an all too frequent sight in many parts of the world. We see it in war-torn Gaza, several African countries, and in parts of Asia. Hunger, famine, knows no boundaries. The pots that these youngsters carry may no longer be filled after the world's richest man vowed to shut down U.S. aid. Elon Musk advises President Donald Trump on government efficiency, and foreign aid is in the crosshairs of his fiscal gun. UN aid spokesman Jens Larke says they're still trying to determine the impact of the funding cuts.
We have, of course, been in close contact with all our offices around the world, who are also on their part in close contact with the U.S. embassies that are in their countries, seeking more clarity about what this all means.
What we know so far is that about 500,000 metric tons of food worth $340 million is in limbo. It's either in transit or storage. Humanitarian organizations wait for U.S. State Department approval to distribute it. In the meantime, people go hungry. Aid workers say American cash intended to help people buy food and other necessities in Sudan and Gaza has been halted. Larke says up until now, the U.S. has been a big player in foreign aid.
Some 47% of the global humanitarian appeal across the world last year, 47% of that was funded through the U.S. government. That gives you an indication of how much it matters when we are in the situation we are in right now with the messaging we're getting from the government.
Humanitarian organizations have hit roadblocks in getting paid for emergency food operations. Questions about what programs have permission to continue have gone unanswered. That's because the people who normally field such inquiries have been placed on temporary leave by Trump's advisors. Despite this, aid workers like Showei Lee of the World Food Program in Afghanistan try to remain optimistic.
I think for the funding situation, we recognize that there are many challenges and high levels of need across the world. And so, of course, we always appreciate the generosity of our donors, can only hope that they continue to be generous.
But the cuts are real. Here are some others. Gone is the Famine Early Warning Systems Network. This American entity produced regular food security alerts meant to prevent famine. Its loss leaves aid organizations without a key source of guidance on where and how to deploy humanitarian relief. And the U.S. government has issued stop work orders to 2 major manufacturers of nutritional supplements. This reduces the supply of life-saving food for severely malnourished children around the world. And while millions in impoverished countries scrounge for their next meal, the unelected billionaire who is slashing aid programs posted this on X. It reads, "We spent the weekend feeding U.S. aid into the wood chipper. Could have gone to some great parties. Did that instead." History seems to be repeating itself. Nero fiddled while Rome burned. During the French Revolution, when Marie Antoinette was told about the masses who had no bread, she said, "Let them eat cake." And in 2025, Elon Musk flippantly boasts about decimating an agency that provides humanitarian aid. Thomas I. Likeness, NET25 World News.
Outrage is boiling over in the United States as USAID faces accusations of mismanaging taxpayer dollars on controversial projects. Now, President Trump and Elon Musk have launched a fierce crackdown, branding the agency as corrupt and wasteful. Since last Monday, USAID offices have been closed, employees sidelined, and crucial global aid programs put on hold. Protests erupted once again in Washington, D.C. as angry aid workers and activists flooded the streets chanting, "USA saves lives." They're calling out President Trump and Elon Musk for dismantling America's lifeline to the world, the USAID.
With this, we are witnessing in real time the most corrupt bargain in American history. Elon Musk paid over $250 million to help elect Donald Trump, and now Donald Trump is turning over the keys to the Treasury and the rest of the federal government to Elon Musk. We need to end this illegal power grab, and we are going to do it now. We are not going back. Thank you all for being here.
The Trump administration quickly froze billions in foreign aid, claiming the program had spiraled out of control under the Biden administration.
It's something that should have been done a long time ago. It went crazy during the Biden administration. They went totally crazy what they were doing, and the money they were giving to people that shouldn't be getting it, and to agencies and others that shouldn't be getting it. It was a shame. So they're tremendous fraud. But we'll be doing a report. We'll be giving you that report at the appropriate time.
White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt didn't hold back.
And I would just say a strong message to Democrats who are out there pretending to be outraged about the long list of crap that this administration is cutting, federal waste and funding, like $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala, $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, $20 million on a new Sesame Street show in Iraq, $4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. I could go on, and I'm happy to provide this list to every single one of you. Democrats are outraged that the American people want to be, they want their taxpayers going to good uses, not stuff like this. But then they're very quiet about the fact that there are still North Carolinians and people in California who have lost everything. And in the last 4 years, this federal government did nothing to help them.
Despite critics arguing the U.S. spends less than 1% of its budget on foreign aid, Republicans are standing firm. Former GOP congressional nominee Kimberly Classic said it's time for America to stop being the sugar daddy for other countries. With USAID offices shut down this Monday, employees were locked out of their emails and phones, leaving many worried about their jobs.
Our jobs are gone, but hopefully the agency will remain and one day we can come back.
In response, Secretary of State Marco Rubio stepped in, claiming the role of acting USAID director. He promised changes.
Is that people were given 30 days that we would help bring them home if they so desired during that 30-day period. And at the same time, the expectation, as I said, that if they have a special condition or something's going on, we didn't list them all, but we're willing to listen to those. We're not trying to be disruptive to people's personal lives. We're not being punitive here. But this is the only way we've been able to get cooperation from USAID. I had preferred not to do it this way.
The International Criminal Court is once again in the spotlight. U.S. President Donald Trump has reimposed economic and travel sanctions on individuals involved in ICC investigations, targeting U.S. citizens and allies, including Israel. And this move, echoing his first-term policies, comes as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visits Washington weeks after the ICC issued arrest warrants for him and Hamas leaders over alleged war crimes in Gaza. Take a look. But how does the ICC actually work? Professor Jerry Simpson of the London School of Economics explains.
The ICC is designed to apply individual responsibility to violators of fundamental norms of international law in an international setting. So the crucial thing is that a lot of this sort of stuff got done in domestic courts for a long time, but the ICC was the first permanent international criminal court that prosecuted people we understand sort of colloquially as war criminals.
Despite its mandate, the court has struggled with enforcement. Since the 1990s, international tribunals have convicted very few individuals.
The various courts established since the 1990s have really convicted, vanishingly few people. The first trial was of a person who recruited child soldiers in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Lubanga case. But there haven't been very many cases like that at the ICC. There have been a lot more actually at what we're calling ad hoc tribunals established by the Security Council in the 1990s in relation to Rwanda and Yugoslavia.
So what happens when an arrest warrant is issued? Professor Simpson outlines the process.
The ICC goes through a sort of relatively long process. A case is brought to its attention either by a state or by the Security Council or through action by the prosecutor. Then, in many of those cases, the pretrial chamber will make a decision about whether an arrest warrant can be issued. The arrest warrant is then issued by the prosecutor, and the arrest warrant becomes binding on any state that happens to have custody of the alleged war criminal. That's roughly how it works.
But enforcing these warrants is another challenge. Many nations simply refuse to comply.
South Africa failed to comply with its obligation under the statute by failing to arrest and surrender Mr. al-Bashir.
Very hard to enforce an arrest warrant. We've been here before with the South Africans and al-Bashir in Sudan. And there, the court didn't even make an order. It didn't, in fact, refer the matter to the Assembly of State Parties when the South Africans failed to surrender al-Bashir to the ICC. I mean, there's a legal question here and a political question. The political question really aligns around the relationship between diplomacy and law. If the state party fails to comply with an arrest warrant, the case can go before the court. And the court can then order the state party to comply and can refer the matter to what's called the Assembly of State Parties, or ultimately the Security Council, if it's the Security Council that first referred the matter. So the ICC, the court itself, really can't do a great deal.
Russia has dismissed the ICC's authority. President Vladimir Putin himself has made this clear.
The International Criminal Court does not have universal value. It is one of the international organizations whose jurisdiction Russia, like many other countries in the world, does not recognize. The United States also do not recognize it. As far as I know, China does not recognize it. Turkey does not recognize it.
And these diplomatic imperatives around peace in Ukraine will come into conflict with a question about what exactly to do about Vladimir Putin's arrest warrant at the ICC. I mean, will the arrest warrant just be ignored? Or will there be an attempt to enforce it, which would result in the dissolution of the peace process? So it's a really tricky matter, and I'm not entirely sure that it's been properly thought through.
So what does an ICC warrant actually mean for world leaders? It can limit their ability to travel freely, as Professor Simpson explains.
You sort of lose the freedom to travel. So I think international law and international criminal law works in, mysterious ways. The enforcement of it doesn't always happen in a court. Sometimes somebody's just sitting down with their passport wondering where to go on holiday and discovers they can't go to 56 places. And that's a kind of form of enforcement. And the other thing I'd say is that you do get cases where people are surprisingly detained, sometimes by accident almost.
What if Netanyahu travels to the U.S.?
Nothing. The United States has no duties to arrest or surrender Netanyahu. So there, the kind of political needs of the United States match rather nicely with the legal position.
Could Netanyahu or Putin ever face trial? Professor Simpson believes it's possible if political tides shift.
The truth is that only with a change of government, and a pretty radical change of government in both those states, would you get into a situation where Netanyahu or Putin was arrested and surrendered to the ICC. But these things do happen. A week can be a long time in politics, and one can go from being a respected statesperson to being a war criminal. That's what happened to Slobodan Milosevic. He was the president of Yugoslavia and then Serbia. He was a negotiating partner at Dayton with NATO and so on. And then he found himself under arrest for war crimes, crimes against humanity and genocide. He died in jail. But so politics shifts, and arrest warrants are forever. So you know, they've got an advantage over politics in a way in that sense.
With world leaders weighing diplomatic concerns against international law, the debate over justice and power continues. Will the ICC's latest warrants lead to arrests or just more political posturing? Only time will tell. Now, President Trump has also signed a sweeping executive order targeting transgender athletes in women's sports. The order, titled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports, gives federal agencies new enforcement powers. The order, titled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports, was signed on Wednesday and goes beyond just a ban. It also directs federal agencies to withhold resources from institutions that don't comply.
Pretty good, huh? I see that. Okay? Good. Now you're going to go out and win those events, right? Nice to see you all.
With this executive order, the war on women's sports is over. Under the Trump administration, we will defend the proud tradition of female athletes, and we will not allow men to beat up, injure, and cheat our women and our girls. From now on, women's sports will be only for women.
The order also empowers the Department of Education to investigate schools and colleges that fail to enforce the policy. Those institutions risk losing federal funding if found non-compliant.
With my action this afternoon, we're putting every school receiving taxpayer dollars on notice that if you let men take over women's sports teams or invade your locker rooms, you will be investigated for violations of Title IX and risk your federal funding. There will be no federal funding.
This is part of Trump's broader crackdown on what he calls woke gender ideology. So far, he has signed multiple executive orders, including declaring that the U.S. only recognizes two genders, male and female, banning gender-affirming care and transition surgeries for minors, banning transgender individuals from serving in the U.S. military, mandating that transgender women be placed in men's prisons, denying passport applications for non-binary individuals. And now Trump is expanding restrictions beyond U.S. borders. On Wednesday, he announced a new visa ban targeting transgender foreign athletes, barring them from competing in the U.S.
I'm also directing our Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, who's also she's out there with you, Greg, a fantastic job. She's unbelievable. I was watching her riding yesterday on a horse. She was as good as anybody. She's very good. To deny any and all visa applications made by men attempting to fraudulently enter the United States while identifying themselves as women athletes, try and get into the games maybe where they are unable to get into the game.
The United States has seized another Venezuelan aircraft, escalating pressure on President Nicolas Maduro's government. The target, a Dassault Falcon 200 jet, now grounded in the Dominican Republic under U.S. sanctions. President Trump weighed in on the Venezuelan situation.
No, we want to do something with Venezuela. I've been a very big opponent of Venezuela and Maduro. They've treated us not so good, but they've treated, more importantly, the Venezuelan people very badly. We have tremendous Venezuelan population. I got 92% of the vote, the Venezuelan vote. Now we want to see what we can do to get people back in their homeland safe and free, and it's been very unfortunate. I was very surprised when I saw that Biden agreed to buy a lot of oil from Venezuela, because Venezuela was just about finished, the dictator. And when that happened, it brought him back to life. You know, Biden went out and they buy millions of barrels of oil.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio led the operation in Santo Domingo, where Homeland Security officials confirmed the aircraft's role in state visits, including the 2023 U.S.-Venezuela prisoner exchange. Records showed the plane made multiple trips to Greece, Turkey, Russia, Nicaragua, and Cuba, all in violation of U.S. sanctions.
Since then, that aircraft was utilized for every single state visit by the illegitimate President Nicolas Maduro, to include the 2023 U.S.-Venezuela prison as well.
The seizure required a $230,000 foreign aid package to the Dominican Republic for maintenance and storage costs. This marks the second such operation since September 2024, when the Biden administration seized Maduro's $13 million presidential jet, also in the Dominican territory. The latest seizure underscores Washington's expanding strategy to isolate the Maduro regime through both diplomatic and economic pressure. In a heart-stopping rescue on Lake Diaz, Florida, deputies raced against time to save a boater trapped aboard his own vessel as it spun in dangerous circles, creating a deadly whirlpool effect. The dramatic scene unfolded Tuesday when Volusia County Sheriff Marine Unit spotted an unmanned boat careening out of control, only to discover an unconscious man lying aboard. In a daring maneuver captured on video, deputies pursued the spinning vessel, timing their approach perfectly to leap from their patrol boat onto the runaway craft.
Let him go around again, and as he comes around, let's just come up next to him and push him up to that tree.
With seconds to spare, the officers hoisted the unresponsive boater to safety, immediately beginning life-saving measures once aboard their patrol vessel.
Hey, just in case that boat's not going to leave it, we'll transfer it. Yeah. Hey, we're going to take him by boat back over there. Yeah, I see it. Looks like a diabetes kit here, so we can get it up. Put him on the deck up in the front.
Their swift action paid off. The Volusia County Sheriff's Office reports the victim is expected to make a complete recovery. And the news continues. Zero NET25. We'll be right back.
We often think of beauty as something that's skin deep. But true beauty starts from the inside out. That's why our next episode is all about the powerful connection between health and beauty. From nourishing your body with the right nutrients to staying active and managing stress, these habits don't just improve your physical health, but also bring out your natural glow. Dito lang yan sa Ito Ang Tahanan ngayong Sabado at Linggo, alas 8 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga sa NET25.
Let's net together sa NET25. Sa NET25.
Greece has declared a state of emergency on the popular tourist island of Santorini after a week of intense undersea earthquakes. Hundreds of tremors, culminating in a 5.2 magnitude quake, have rattled the island and prompted an exodus of residents and workers. The Greek government is mobilizing all available resources to support Santorini. Firefighters, police, the Coast Guard, the military and medical personnel have been dispatched to the island and surrounding areas. Thousands have already left Santorini, heading to the mainland by ferry. While damage has been minimal so far, the ongoing seismic activity has caused significant concern.
Our Santorini is shaking every 10 minutes on average. A lot of earthquakes, there is concern. I would not have left Santorini, but it was planned anyway. I came to do some jobs. I did them and I shook too. I hope everything goes well.
When you are at the epicenter of the earthquakes and you know you are on a volcanic island that has fragile ground, it is more frightening than being in another part of Greece where the epicenter will be farther away.
Seismologists are closely monitoring the situation. While they believe the earthquakes are not linked to volcanic activity, they cannot predict if a larger quake is coming. The epicenter of the tremors is located underwater, which experts say reduces the risk of widespread damage. On Santorini, authorities have closed some areas prone to rock slides and are inspecting buildings, including schools, which have all been shut this week. The state of emergency will allow for a faster response should the situation worsen. NASA's Hubble Space Telescope has captured a stunning new image of what's being called the Bullseye Galaxy. Officially named Galaxy Leda 1313424, this blue dwarf galaxy features striking star-filled rings. Now, thanks to Hubble, scientists now believe it has 9 rings, more than previously observed in other galaxies. Now, that's a breathtaking discovery. And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Have a great weekend. Good night.